welcome to another Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation's Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. I am your host, Michael Kernodle. It is a beautiful day for jazz, wouldn't you agree? And today's educator is none other than the extraordinaire, world-renowned known Mr. Jeremy Carter. And his topic is deliberate versus intentional. I'm so excited to hear this session. As you know, Jeremy is one of the most sought after saxophonists here, not just here in Tampa Bay, but I would say worldwide. But before we talk about his bio or anything else, we want to make sure we thank our sponsors. So I want to say, please be sure to check out the studio archives of our past video sessions at clearwaterjazz.com education outreach section. That is brought to you by Blue Water Wealth Management at Stewart Partners and Duke Energy, as well as our Young Lions podcast wherever you stream. And that's brought to you by our friends over there at Marine Max Clearwater. And just search Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions wherever you stream. I mean, where can I start? I mean, Jeremy has brought so many great sessions here at Clearwater Jazz. He is not a visitor at all, not a stranger at all. He's had great sessions as beginner, intermediate, and advanced tenor sax sessions. He did a lot about What I Love About series. And also we had some great conversations with some of the greatest like Sam Dillon. How about that Terrence Martin? That was a great session. You got to check that one out. And if you don't know who Jeremy Carter is, he is a saxophonist, a professional saxophonist. He's such an incredible performer. He's traveled all over the world, recorded as well. He's a great educator. And what can I say? I always see him here in the Tampa Bay area and beyond with his band. If you haven't heard them, next show, you got to go see them. They're called the Jeremy Carter Rubber Band. So without any further delay, I'm going to get out of the way. Jeremy Carter, the stage is all yours.
Michael, man, thank you so much, man. What an introduction. I'm really excited to be here again today to share another topic, which I think is super useful. Once again, thanks to Steve Weinberger and all our other partners over at Clearwater Jazz Holiday. There's some other sessions in the archives that I'll definitely reference throughout this session, just for some fundamental base. And it would be really good just to go in there and not just check out some of my sessions, but just check out the entire library in there. But today's session, deliberate versus intentional. When I initially suggested this topic, Steve was saying like, "Wait, aren't they the same thing?" And maybe by definition, they share a lot in common, right? But this is a theory that I've found useful. This is just a little nugget that or way of thinking that I found really useful, whether I'm on stage improvising or I'm just in the woodshed and I'm working on stuff. I wanted to use some. I might be able to get my drum genius going. If not, I'll just tap my toe for some of the examples to demonstrate. But when you're thinking about improvising, this concept of deliberate versus intentional it becomes useful, really, really useful to me, even when I'm practicing as well. And let me try to break this down or explain this. The idea of being intentional is not so good when you're thinking about being in the interest of spontaneity. Intention is not as valuable to me in my head as being deliberate. And let me just try to break it down. Being deliberate means that there is meaning. You're meaning to do it, but the element that you're adding when you're talking about being deliberate is the other people, not just on the bandstand, but in the audience, right? You start playing some tunes, and the way that the audience responds to it is going to kind of dictate, or should dictate, what you do next. It's a constant flow. It's a constant um, um, flow, or a constant series of decisions that are made in lightning speed between the musicians. If you're playing a tune, whether it's blues or where it's like a turnaround and you do like a Coltrane type turn back, or you just know that instead of like a 1-6-2-5, you're just going to lay on something else. You got to just kind of silently communicate because of things that you've already done, right? Okay, so to me, that's being deliberate. If you're being intentional, right? And if you're being intentional, it's like you're going to give the audience and your fellow musicians whatever you wish, regardless of what happens. You're just going to plow through, right? And I'm just saying, I'm using this concept in the very focused framework of being spontaneous. There are certain times when being intentional is totally necessary. It's totally okay, and so it's what is required. If you're going through and you're playing a show and there are pieces, there's written work, like you intentionally want to play that with the best accuracy. Every note you want to have as unified precision on the attack of the note, the length and value of the note dynamically throughout, and the decay, right? Sometimes intention works. And so this concept, the reason that I'm addressing it is because I think it's good to kind of to get out of that framework, not completely. Obviously, there's all kinds of decisions that are being made if you're playing a song. You have to, if you're playing a saxophone, you have to have your, okay, there's lots of stuff that happens, but you're not really consciously, at least I'm not consciously thinking about, oh, well, this and then that, you go there, C, E, D, and that. It's more of, I've most often completely disconnected from that. I'm thinking about something else completely. And in the interest of spontaneity, right? But with a deliberate nature. And so if you're doing this thing, if you can tap into this idea or experience this sort of freedom, but yet do it in a very deliberate nature, then that's the kind of the balance, the material that holds it all together and prevents it from being just completely chaotic. You hear some of the coolest stuff, from some, at least some, just from my own perspective, I'm listening to, Coltrane or Brecker, or, some of these artists that kind of push the bounds harmonically. Kenny Garrett, there's so many that I could name. They kind of tap into their own harmonic philosophy, right? Those are the times when, at least for me, I'm most intrigued with the music, is if it is a little bit strange. There's a saying like, there's no beauty in art that doesn't have some strangeness to it, or something to that effect. I know I'm totally misquoting it, but you get the idea. If you're trying to tap into your spontaneous side, and this exists for everyone, you know what I mean? Like, you do your study. Like, I don't know, lately I've been checking out, Chris Potter, and which is constant, and Ben Wendell, he does some really cool stuff. Seamus Blake is always in my rotation, Dexter Gordon. And so you take little elements. It's kind of like a smorgasbord. You go to the buffet, you get a little chicken, right? Maybe not for some people. I'm gonna get the fried chicken, the mashed potatoes, right? Right. You already know what my thing is looking like. And the music is the same way. You take little bits and pieces from everyone. You don't want to be a clone or a copy. There's already one person that's doing that, but no one can do you. There's no one that can do that has your unique set of proclivities as it pertains to rhythm. And this is me referencing one of my other sessions, the musical color wheel, when I'm talking about rhythm, I'm talking about dynamics, I'm talking about harmony, I'm talking about melody, and then your overall sound, your vehicle, your delivery system, right? So you stay like true to that while you're trying to maintain all these other things and adhere to all these other philosophies. Oh, it has to be like this, it has to be like that. I think for the most part, when you start cooking, and all that's rubbish, right? You're cooking. It has to be so, the things happen so fast. You have to have this, access to these things in a great, like you have to have facility of it in a fashion that's quicker than just being intentional. You don't have the time to think and sort through it. It has to be deliberate. It's also a speed thing. If you think about the word intent, just the way that you use the two words will give you some idea as to how they're different. For someone who hears that or looks at the title of the session, like, oh my God, what's this guy on? They're the same thing. This has got to be one of these musical circle of nothings that, sometimes you get sucked into musically just because, people get too wrapped up in it. But what I mean to explain is that if you say this situation did not work out as I intended, right? There's no way that no comfortable way that you could use deliberate in the same fashion. There's a difference and there's a nuance in the time. The time is like the main difference. At least for me, it's one of the main differences. Like how you think. Like intent requires time. Deliberacy doesn't require as much time. It functions within this lightning fast world of information that musicians live in when they're improvising, or even when they're not improvising. They're just simply processing all this information in their eyes. If you're reading in a section, and like the uniformity of the group is more important than the solo voice, you're processing a lot of information at once. The decay and the attack of all these different notes in a unified fashion. And so to be deliberate, I think is like more important. It works in the idea or in the spirit of the way that the speed at which music happens, the way that we process information. It happens a little bit too quickly to be intentional. You're intentional in the work. You know what I mean? Like when you're working, when you're sitting back and or not necessarily sitting back, but when you have the opportunity to sort of deconstruct some of the material that you're trying to tackle, you can look at it and understand it from a musical or from a rhythmic standpoint. Initially, I think is what's most important is if you get it rhythmically, you can kind of understand like where the pulse is, right? I think that's the most important thing. It's another reference to the color wheel thing, right? Then you can start to have some building blocks, right? Some tangible building blocks, not just like some, intangible spirits and mystical thing. And music is just, I don't know, it just makes me feel a certain way. It is that, but you can, as an artist, as somebody that's trying to, perform and develop their own style and sound and sharpen their tools of their craft, you can have a very tangible basis to do these things. Not just, oh yeah, music just makes me feel, yeah, okay, that too. But you have a pathway, you have a method to start to just think about what it is you want to communicate, right? Okay, so for example, I don't know, I was just warming up. Of course, I didn't have as much time as I thought I did. I was trying to get my computer and all my saxes set up. I got a lot of work ahead. And so, I didn't really think about any tunes or anything like that, but I'll try to, let me think. What could I do? Everybody always plays There Will Be Another You. So I guess I'll try to do something. Yeah, this is a tough contrast because like the one I'm being intentional, so I would have to like play something that is like pre-prescribed. I don't really have anything that like solos or like phrases that I can contrast against. The idea or the thing that I'm trying to demonstrate is like if you're playing a tune, you call up a tune in a jam session, and it's like a song that you've been working on, and you've been working on a specific transcription of this song, right? And so you just go into playing the transcription. Well, if once you get done with that, there's going to be a marked difference between what you were just playing and now what you're forced to create. I would look at the offering of the transcription as a solo is just that's just why maybe elements, parts of it. This whole concept of intentional versus deliberate, I think, is like another kind of nuance in the distinction would be looking at it as a presentation, like I'm going to present this to you, as opposed to like a performance. The presentation would be like the intent, like I'm going to present this to you, you're going to get it, and then that's just what it is, and they can be, they can both mean the same thing, in other contexts. Then you can look at it, there are a lot of different ways. There are a lot of similarities within the idea of the words themselves and what they represent, yes. But in this very context, I'm trying to make that distinction to help soloists, artists, to be more spontaneous in that fashion. So I would look at being intentional as a presentation and being deliberate more of a performance. You're performing. You're in the moment. You're like experiencing what is happening in real time, right? Yeah, so I don't know. I mentioned that tune. So, I mean, and yeah, it's genuinely, I don't even remember when the last time I played it. But I'll just go through it. I'll play the melody a little bit, and I'll start just playing deliberately. But it's certainly not intentional because I don't have anything on my mind when it comes to, you know what I mean? Like I don't have to, there's nothing pre-prescribed that I'm like, oh baby, I've been in the lab. I'm gonna hit them with the old 1-2. They're gonna hear this lick and they're just gonna go wild, right? There's a bit of that. There's always that. Like as I sit here right now, I don't really have anything pre-prescribed as to what I'm gonna play over the song. I just know that I have an understanding of what I think the song should sound like, depending on what style I choose to start playing it in. And then that could change. You can start off with like a 2-feel swing, go into a 4-feel swing, and then like it adopts this Latin thing or just wherever you take it or whatever it morphs or mutates into. You have the freedom to do that. And that's kind of the idea of what I'm trying to get at. Within all that, it's just not willy-nilly. You know what I mean? It's not just freestyle, get jiggy with it. There's a bit of that too. But it's within the structure of the song, right? So, yeah, let me play a little bit of this tune. What did I say? There will never be another year, right? Yeah, you know, and you just start to you try to you try to incorporate elements of all the elements of the color wheel, right? You want to keep the rhythm where it is, and you want to be spontaneous as possible. You know, like I'm just kind of floating through there, thinking of like a lot of different things. You know, like rhythm is one of the most important. You know, you have to keep it. You have to. I think I look at rhythm as kind of like hang man, I'm just about to make another food reference. I haven't had breakfast yet. So I must be hungry. So like rhythm is like the bowl or the plate, right? It just kind of holds everything together, right? And then you can start to construct it in other ways with other elements of the color wheel, right? Your sound, I mean, that's going to be your taste buds, right? That's where the rubber meets the road, right? And your utensils, we can say that that's harmony and melody, right? The structure, the tools, you know, that you actually. So you want to definitely be deliberate as possible while being free. This is just a concept that I use to try um, um, to not get into tendencies, right? And to like just think like you have an understanding of what the format is, what the song is you're playing, and so if you're being free, you know you can ideally you can just play chorus after chorus, and I mean you ultimately you're looking to reach a point of like really being spontaneous. If you're just going to the same old well, or if you're visualizing, I mean, the notes don't change. If you look at the keyboard, it's the same 12 notes. They just don't change. The way you interpret them does every time, right? And so, in an effort to just really be completely free, like a lot of art teachers will tell you, whether it's visual arts, auditory arts, you know, there's a certain element of, you know, the instructors encouraging you to be free, you know, and to be spontaneous. Yeah, well, that only happens within the framework of you know, I'm stuttering now. The framework of whatever it is that you're working on, whether that's music, you know, whether it's visual arts, right? And as a musician, whether you're a sax player, whether you're a drummer, that was the distinction I was trying to make. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, as a bass player, a piano player, yeah. I mean, George Garzone and different teachers like that, they've, you know, been famous for saying like, yeah, any note, anytime. If you let's check out George Garzone, the sax player, you can hear some of that philosophy coming to the front. And then like Ornette Coleman, he's another one. That another name that I could use as an example. His music is interpreted as being freer than it really is. Thelonious Monk, another one. He's, oh my God, some of his tunes, it's just incredible. Like, they're so logical. Well, you need it. What's that tune? Ask Me Now. Oh my goodness. Oh, Ruby, my dear. I mean, just some of the freest yet most logical stuff that you could ever come across. And, you know, so when you're doing your listening, you know, just be aware of, try to be aware of the fact that when these people were playing this music, yeah, I mean, all of them obviously must have practiced a great deal to get to that point. But when they're doing it, I mean, look at Keith Jarrett. He's another example, the pianist, Keith Jarrett. he has videos on YouTube. You watch him, he's just like he's standing up and he's like he's grunting, he's making all these noises, and he's like curled all over the piano, and I'm just like, yeah, that's it. I see that, and I'm just like, I want to feel that, you know. And so, in order to do that, you have to let go. You have to be like free enough, and you also have to be able to let go. You have to have put in the work to be able to let go and be deliberate in that fashion. Yeah, so I hope I, I I gave some little bits of information that while I'm at it, is there anybody that's tuned in and we got any questions out there I could possibly answer while we have the subject on the table, while it's on the menu? Another food reference.
No food references at the moment, sir.
Okay.
But being intentional. So you said you have different influences and different people you're listening to consistently. You mentioned you're listening to Chris Potter lately. Is that what you're listening to? And what specifically from Chris Potter, if you can share any certain recordings that you may be transcribing or something you can recommend?
Yeah, there's a ton of them. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch. Like I look at, like Potter is kind of like Coltrane in his and how vast his musical stylings have become. Like he has all this newer stuff with his underground band, and then there's some older stuff that he did with Paul Motion with the Electric Bebop band. That's really, really great with Chris Cheek, and I think Kurt Rosenwinkel was in that band for a while. He has some stuff. I've seen that group perform live a few times in different cities up in New York, and I went back to my hometown of Omaha. I had to do a recording up there with some friends, and I centered it around, like I knew Potter was coming to town, so I saw him up there. And it was an early version of the underground band where it was like Nate Smith and Craig Taborn playing Rhodes and also performing with the bass function, and then Adam Rogers on guitar. Yeah, I mean, for anybody that wants to check out some really, really hardcore Chris Potter, I mean, there's lots of bootlegs out there. I don't encourage anybody to do that kind of thing, but there are a few recordings on YouTube. I think they're from around, oh man, I don't know the year exactly, but they're over in Europe somewhere. It's like Chris, if you plug in Chris Potter Fashing, it's like PHRASING, something like that. If you get that close, it should find it. There's a few recordings on there where he was doing some music that he recorded on a combination of a couple different albums. But the music was just, man, like the music, the way that they were playing it. Like I said, I've heard this band, videos of them, and I've heard them live a few times. And this particular night, like everybody was just on. And I mean, I'm the audience included. Like they knew how special what they were witnessing was, just by the way that they were responding. And yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of crowd participation, a lot of woohoos. And yeah, when that energy is genuine and you've come from a genuine place, there's just nothing like that. I mean, it's like a drug, you know what I mean? It's you just want that, and not a manufactured stevia Splenda kind of way, another food reference. You want the real thing, you want that Coca-Cola from Mexico, you want the real thing. And so, yeah, that was another special recording that I often listen to. Yeah, I mean, he's got some newer stuff. He's working with Obed Claver. He's working with Dave Holland. That's, you know, like he seems to be mixing it up a lot more now. I mean, post pandemic, um, he's definitely just working with a lot more people. It doesn't seem to be doing the underground band as much. Um, but yeah, I dig his playing uh, because record a lot of the artists, the contemporary artists that I dig, you know. I'm into Dave Sanborn too. You know, he's super cool. If you, I mean, I've watched those Lethal Weapon movies so many times, you can't help but love that stuff. But a lot of my favorite sax players, contemporary sax players, they play, you know, they don't just play straight ahead jazz. Like they play some city sax, I call it. You know, like they get into that as well. And Potter playing that, the more funk based stuff with his underground band is part of what inspired me to do my current project with the rubber band. We do a lot of funky stuff. It's just fun. I mean, it was stuff that I was doing already, um, but I think maybe in my head somewhere I didn't really have the conscious mind to try to incorporate the two the way that I do, or incorporate styles the way that I do in the rubber band. It was partially because of what Potter was doing with his underground band. Because while they were more of like a funk based thing or group ensemble, they didn't. You could not classify them as a funk band. And you know, I'm aware of like the rubber band associations, Bootsy and all that stuff, and it's just an homage, man. You know, like I'm totally like some of my earliest and fondest memories of music were, you know, going to snatch some of my parents' old 33s, you know, and just like my Sharia Moore and all these Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, all these James Brown, like it was just amazing, man. They had stacks and stacks and stacks. So that music is a part, just as much a part of me as anything else. And so just seeing Potter do it in the underground setting just gave me a little bit more of a license, you know, or a wanting it. Like you can do it, you know. There's nothing saying that you can't. You know, you don't have to stay in some box. You know, it's music. You can incorporate whatever you know. And like I said, I was doing it anyway, but just not in a way that was so deliberate. You know, now like my rubber band group, we'll go into. I think we did a show down in Sarasota. You know, during sound check, the song "If I Should Lose You" just came to my mind, and so we just started playing it. You know, if I should lose you, like, and it sounded great during the sound check, and it wasn't really like it was nice to put it in the program because of the venue that we were at, and that's what I'm talking about, being deliberate versus intentional. I came in with a certain mindset, like, okay, this is the rubber band, and I want to present and put this forward and offer this, but then I started looking at the audience, and most of these people were really old. They were down in Sarasota, or we were down there, and it would not, that message would not connect or resonate with him the same way. And so, just by way of happenstance, during the sound check, we were just playing this, and Elias, my bass player, he started cooking on it, and everybody started getting. It was like, my guitar player Lou, he started shredding on it. And then I'm like, we should do this, right? And then like that's more of being like deliberate. Like I'm deliberately playing this song because it feels good for us, and it will maybe be a little bit more appropriate than some of the music that I had in mind. Like we could tone down some of the music that I was going to play, Eddie Harris, Cold Duck Time, or something like that. I don't even remember what I scratched, but and we could have toned it down and played it more in a more suitable fashion for the venue, but instead we can pivot. You're fluid enough to just go with the flow, right? Whether that be somebody's influence on stage, the venue, or just something tragic in the world happens or something like that, and the music takes on a slightly different tone. You know what I mean? Being intentional is like, yeah, I ain't trying to hear none of that. I'm just gonna do it. Which is what you have to do sometimes. Totally necessary, but this deliberate versus intentional conversation is just within the specific framework of being spontaneous and to encourage young musicians to do so while they're improvising. So once again, thanks to Clearwater Jazz Holiday, Steve Weinberger, Michael Granado, and all of our other associate partners over there, and all the other musicians that have been contributing to the archives. Thank them as well, and for anybody who tunes in. Yeah,
and we thank you too, Dr. Professor Jeremy Carter, for this great session. And I do want to remind everyone, whether you're listening live or maybe you listen to the playback, you can check out this session and our upcoming sessions, our past sessions, and guess what? They are all free. Okay, let me say that one more time, because I know you just jumped out of your seat and you said, I can't believe this. But yes, they are all free, and they're posted at www.clearwaterjazz.com/education. So you can hear from great master educators and performers and artists just like Jeremy Carter. And you can check it out whether you're a beginner or you may be a seasoned performer. Who knows? We can all learn something. Never, ever, ever stop learning. Thank you again to our sponsors. And also, if you have a topic suggestion, maybe it's something we haven't covered yet, or you may just say, hey, I want to hear more from Jeremy Carter. How about you email us? We would love to hear from you. We always like hearing from our listeners. You can email us at www.clearwaterjazz.com. Actually, info@clearwaterjazz.com is that address. So we'll love to hear from you, and we can't wait. And until next time, I've been your host, Michael Canoto. This has been the amazing Jeremy Carter, and we will see you next time. And until then, keep it swinging. Talk to you then. Take care. Bye-bye.